Hello, welcome back. This time, for this video, we will be taking a look at the Black Series Empire Strikes Back Boba Fett. If my memory serves me correctly, this figure was originally released in 2013, so it's nearly 11 years old, which, saying that, makes me feel a bit old, but hey, that's just how it goes. Anyways, moving right along, this is a very interesting figure. I like it. I will say that right now, but I do think this design is in major need of an update for the Black Series, as well as the Vintage Collection for that matter. And I am quite surprised that one hasn't been done yet. Anyways, let's just get started off and looking at the details. So we got his helmet, which is very nicely sculpted and very nicely painted. The shaping on this helmet, similar to the Return of the Jedi Vintage Collection Boba Fett, is really nice. No head. There is no unpainted head sculpt underneath here, so that meant the sculptors were able to just kind of really focus on making the sculpt as accurate as possible. His rangefinder does look a bit thick to me, and it is indeed warped just a little bit. And this actually brings up a major point about this figure, is that I have broken it in a couple of places. Now, part of that could that be Hasbro's fault? Sure. But, I also display my Black Series figures very high up on my shelf. So, if it takes a tumble, that means it's going down very far. So, part of that's on me. And one area where I have broken is the tip of the rangefinder, and so I just had to glue it back into place. But honestly, you can't really tell that it's been glued, at least in my opinion. Yeah, so that pretty much just about does it for the helmet. We have the nice yellow highlights and accents, and yeah, it's a very nice helmet. We'll cover the jetpack next, and like most Boba Fett figures, it is removable. Yeah, we have some more nice, silver painting and detail for the dents, as well as these little instruments up top and stripe on the missile. And we also have some bits of brown or beige paint as well. And this jetpack was made well before the Return of the Jedi version, so it is unfortunately not compatible with the flame effect parts that come with that figure. And the missile is also not removable. This is all just one solid piece. Bringing the figure back, not only did they sculpt the buckles and straps on the back, but they also painted them, which is very nice. And they also painted the back of his chest plate. And they didn't have to do that, but they went the extra mile, and I appreciate that in that regard. All right, moving on to the chest plate. Once again, we have splotches of silver that make it a bit more visually interesting, as well as some sculpted indents this time. These three right here I particularly like, and we also have one right here as well. And we have a couple of other details, like his little patch sigil right here, and a display, the numerical display right here, which, as I mentioned in my Return of the Jedi Vintage Collection Boba Fett review, was absent from that figure. Shoulder armor. Unlike some of the more modern figures, this is just sculpted in to the arm itself. I don't mind this. I think, it makes the figure a bit more stable, so you don't have to worry about the attaching point to the chest plate breaking off. So I quite like that. I think it's a good workaround, and painting on these shoulder pads is pretty good. Like we have a nice dent there. And the Mythosaur skull, not bad. Lines are a bit thick, but not bad. And then we have his cape, which is very, very large. It looks great, all of the frilling and tattering and the stripe. All looks nice. However, it is just a bit unwieldy at times when it hangs down his back. However, that's not really a fault of the designers. As far as I remember from Empire Strikes Back, his cape was quite a bit bigger in that one. And hey, at least it has the benefit of, can wrap around him, give him a Clint Eastwood look. That's pretty gnarly. Moving down to his gauntlets. As you can see, very, very nicely painted. I like how the buttons are painted blue and red. I really like that. And this wrist rocket, the silver, black, and red, really, really does make it stand out. As well as this lock-picking device. I dig that. I really dig that. Yeah, so I like this gauntlet. I like the use of color. And this one's also pretty good. A bit less color, but still very nicely sculpted and detailed. And we have the hose for his flamethrower going up into his flight suit. And we have Wookiee braids. Now, for some reason, this one's gray. If I remember correctly, it's even in Empire Strikes Back, they were brown and tan, not like this black and gray color. So that's not great, but what can you do? Moving down to his legs. Now, especially with his legs, you get these sort of darker shades, especially as you get down toward his boots. And I do like that. I think it does give the figure just, again, a bit more visual flair. So, I dig that, even if it does maybe look a bit awkward, if it just all of a sudden is, this dark, kind of gritty to this very bright color plastic on the flight suit. See, we got his belt with the pouches hanging off them. And I do have a problem with these, but we will get to that when we cover articulation. We have his holster for here, which is very nice, as well as his sort of double red belt around the back. More of his armor right here, which also has some denting and silver paint apps applied to it. Looks great as always. We have these big ol' cargo pouches right here, which, much like these, are given this sort of darker finish to them. Again, I don't mind it. I'm fine that they did it. And then we have his knee pads, which look very nice. You have a little dent right there, which I really like, as well as some nice paint on the dart launchers, which is great as always. And then down to his shins. As I said before, we have this really, really dark, almost wash, I guess you could say, that's been applied to this specific part. And no, I dig it. Maybe kind of makes it look like, he's been like running through mud or dirt or something like that. I dig it, right? And we also have the painted detail of his jetpack tools right here. And I like how one of them has a little bit of gold on it. That's very nice. Then moving down to his boots, we once again have the spiked toes, and they are painted silver, which I really do like. I do like that. And it's hard to tell on camera, but there is a contrast between the center of the boot right here and the other outside parts of it. So that's pretty nice. So when it comes to the painting and sculpting on this figure, I think it does look very nice. However, where I have like major problems with this figure is in the articulation. And we can get into that right now. So firstly, ball joint at the head. Don't get a ton of side to side movement, but it's definitely there. But do get a good amount of up, and especially a good amount of down movement. That is very, very nice. Shoulders can rotate. And again, the advantage of having this be sculpted to the arm is that, uninhibited articulation, which is very nice. And then I could rotate out that far. Ooh. We have a bend at the elbow. It looks like it's a little just under 90 degrees. And you have a swivel right here at the elbow. Next up, we have a swivel at the actual gauntlet itself, which I really like. That's a very useful piece of articulation to have. And then we get a wrist swivel, as well as a hinge joint that allows the hand to go in and out. Now with his other arm, because of the hose, it feels a bit more limited, this arm, than it actually is. But you still get basically the same range of motion, except for with the gauntlet swivel. It's just a bit more awkward because of the hose, which is unfortunate, but not the end of the world. And this fist, I also had this finger break off and I had to glue it back in again. But, you know, once again, is it my fault? Is it Hasbro's fault? Who knows? Who really knows? And in fact, when I was looking at this figure, I think I might have actually also broken this trigger finger as well. So watch your Boba Fett fingers. They're quite delicate. Then we have a ball joint at the waist. Get a little bit of side to side. Bit of an arcing back. Actually, oh, that's a better crunch than I thought he had. That's pretty nice. And now the legs. This is where I mainly have problems with the figure. So these pouches are a very rigid material. They're not like a rubbery plastic. And while that does mean they are more stable, what it also means is that his leg can barely kick forward. Like, come on. You gotta do me like that? So yeah, that's mainly where I have problems with this figure, is the fact that his legs cannot move forward all that much. And it also somewhat limits how far they can go out to, which is a shame. It's a shame. That's the biggest thing. Like, I would like the rest of this, I think is acceptable. But this, boy, does it irritate me ever so slightly. Actually, that's a lie. It irritates me more than ever so slightly, because that is not a great range of motion, and it's especially jarring considering the rest of his articulation is pretty solid. His leg can't move back that far. So yeah, leg joints, no bueno. Moving right along, we have that's a tight thigh swivel. And then we have a nice double jointed hinge at the knee. And you see what I mean? The contrast between this knee being able to go so far back, but then the leg being barely able to move forward. See where my frustrations are? And then moving right along to his feet, you get some upward movement, not all that much. Get a lot more downward movement, which that could be helpful for flying poses. And of course, ankle pivot. That can go in both directions. So if you want to break his foot, you know what to do. So yes, that is the figure itself. Before we get into size comparisons, let us get into his accessories. He only comes with two. First off, we have his disintegration pistol, and this is a very nice piece. I quite like this. The red and silver paint really do just make it stand out quite well. However, it is also the source of a very minor nitpick. However, it's a bit of a pet peeve of mine. So, right, the holster for this pistol is right here, right? So, logically, if he goes to draw his pistol, he would use this hand, right? His right hand. However, getting the gun in there very carefully, because you don't want to break any more of his fingers. Look at that. You can, like, fudge it a little bit to get it to look somewhat... Well, as with all toy reviewers, when the camera's on, the figure either misbehaves, when I said behaved, Or it behaves. When I say it misbehaves. But yeah, his grip in his right hand is very loose because his left hand is more so sculpted for his pistol, which is nice. But then that implies just the fact that it can't go into his right hand even though his holster is right there. I know, such a minor thing, but it just drives me bonkers. Anyways, you can just slide his pistol right into there, sticks out the bottom. Not exactly a tight fit, but, you know, if he's not upside down, it should stay in there well and good enough. And his second and final accessory is his blaster rifle. And this looks very, very nice. I like the white painting on the grip as well as the brown and silver on the buttstock. I don't know, just really, again, I appreciate that's more than just, you know, gray or black plastic. I dig it a lot. And we can take that and very carefully, of course, slide that in here. Hey, mission successful. Oh, there goes his pistol. Yes. Oh yeah, one thing of note. The gun is a bit lopsided, unfortunately. However, you know, if you display it from the right angle and if you know, pose him well enough, you can negate that. That's not a huge deal. So we can just pose him up. And, you know, despite my complaints about this figure, you know, doesn't he look awesome? Right? So, with all that being said, let's compare him with some other Black Series figures, starting off with his Return of the Jedi counterpart. Now, straight up, I like this one better. I like this figure a lot better. It's newer, and it has just a lot more to it, in my opinion. But this figure is still good. This figure also has some of its issues. Not off the hook, but overall, I think it is better. So that is a very awesome display. And then we can get, oh boy, Jango Fett in there. And like father, like son, always a great display option. And here we have him with, oh boy, Darth Vader. And gosh dang, that looks really cool. Even though there are only like 2 or 3 scenes together, that is such an awesome display right there. And then we have, ooh, oh boy, let me adjust the camera here. Chewbacca, and my gosh, he is huge. And then we have his opposite number, Han Solo. This is the Return of the Jedi Endor Han Solo, because I do not have an Empire Strikes Back Han Solo. In fact, I don't have all that many Empire Strikes Back figures, period. Blasphemy, I know. But hey, Han Solo's Han Solo, right? And of course, most importantly of all, Han and Carbonite. And man, that looks awesome. Unlike the Vintage Collection one, this one does have a display stand. And in fact, you can even display it like that. Boy, is that sick. And for one more Black Series comparison, Black Series Jabba. And if Chewbacca was big, what does that make this guy? Now, moving along to some other toys for comparison. Here he is with his Vintage Collection self. In terms of between which of these I like better, I would say this one just because I have nostalgia for it. As was previously mentioned in another video, childhood toy of mine, so I just dig him a bit more. And then we have Earthrise Optimus Prime. Don't have a Lockdown figure to compare him with yet. And lastly, the Lego. So, with all that being said, as I said at the beginning of this review, interesting figure. I like it. You know, it has stuff about it that I like, but, you know, it has largely been surpassed by other figures. And, you know, if I had like the SH Figure Arts or Mafex version, like this guy would probably be out the door, honestly. But yeah, for what he is a good toy, right? He's a fun toy. I don't know if I trust him with the little kid just because he has so many fragile parts, unfortunately. But yeah, no, I would say, yeah, my thoughts on this figure are positive. I enjoy this figure. I mean, it's Boba Fett. Of course I'm going to enjoy it, right? So with all that being said, I hope you have a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next video. Cheers.